Hi everyone, it's Mr. Barden here. Today I'm going to be talking about how I generally get started with mixing drum recordings. Just a few things before we go, you'll notice that I'm at the top of the screen now. It's just so you can see all the mixing stuff at the bottom. So it's not a permanent change just for this video. So let's just kind of hop right into it. So I've got a drum recording right here. This is a thing I did with my class that I teach. We had a guest artist come in and we recorded some drums. Now that we have the recordings, the students have to mix them. That's their little assignment to go with from there. So what I'm going to do is just show you how I generally get started. So every project is going to be a little bit different, and that's totally fine. It's going to affect the different choices you make, and in the context of other things happening, you may do things very differently than how I'm about to do it. What I'm going to show you is just a general, kind of starting template. Does a little bit of processing to the drums, helps them, just be nice and clear and balanced, and just ready to go for something else. Because then you could add in whatever else you want in order to create the sounds that you're going for. The first thing you're going to want to do is to have, get a good recording, use decent mics, as good of a room as you can, all of that stuff. I'm not here to go on and on about gear, but that will help. There's no amount of editing that can essentially fix what is a really bad recording. So, get a good recording to start with. This one right here, this is not a sponsored thing, but I figured I'd mention it since I brought up getting good recordings. These were all recorded with there it is. This set of drums microphones, I'll link it down below. A little PreSonus drum set thing. So I like using a kit for recording drums, just because all the microphones you would need are there. They're usually a decent shape. This isn't going to be a whole gear video, but that's just what we used, and a little small treated room that we had at the school. So let's play just a little sample of it raw as is. Everything's at Unity, no effects. We didn't use any presets or any editing when we recorded it, just completely raw. And there it is. I've trimmed off the silence and did a little bit of fading in and out at the very ends of the files. That's all the editing I've done. Uh, it's just a drum loop, no other context, no anything else. It's just what it is. So let's just hop right into it. The very, very first thing I'm going to do is create a bus for my drums. So I'm going to right click and add a bus channel right there. And what we're going to do is for these channels, we're actually going to send it to the bus instead of the main output. Now this is a bit more useful. Here, let me just make this a little bit. These are the drums. This is a little bit more useful when you have a full, mix with other stuff in it. Come on, colors. I'll make my drums red. Because then you can edit all the drums at once, but it's still very handy for what we're doing right here. So what's going on is now, instead of sending this output directly to the main output, we're actually sending all four of these sliders into this drum bus, and we can actually affect the drums as a whole through this slider. So I'll just play a small sample of that to show you. So I'll start by adjusting the bass and then the whole thing. So you see, when I bring down this slider, it brings down everything. But you could still manually mix all of the voices. So this is, again, very useful for creating your mix, and then if you need to bring the drums up or down as a whole, you can do that very, very easily. There's a few other things I'm going to do with this, which is why I brought it in. So here's the stuff. You know, it was a small kit in a small room, so there's a bit of bleed between the different microphones. It happens. I'm not here to talk about ways to prevent that. That's all on the recording stage. But you notice there was still a little bit in each one. So some of the things we're going to do is to help eliminate some of that. So on the inserts, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by adding a equalizer. Where's my favorites? I'm just going to use the built-in one from Studio One. I've got a lot of, there it is, Pro EQ. I've got a lot of effects. So I'm just going to put one of these on all of my channels. And for right now, I'm just going to keep it, flat. And we're also going to put one on the drums. So I've got the equalizer. We're also going to add a compressor. Let's see. And again, for the sake of this video, I'll just use the built-in one. Let's see. Compress. Maybe it's not under favorites because I have other ones that I use. But for the sake, it wasn't favorited. But for the sake of this video, we'll do that. For this one, let's put the compressor before the equalizer. Why not? There's some discourse about which one is better or worse. I'm sure I have made half the people watching this really happy and half of them extremely livid. If anyone who does this and has an opinion on it, guess what? I don't care. So let's keep going. So a compressor and an EQ. That's what I'm starting with, and that's most of what we're going to do. We're going to have 2 more effects in this by the time we're done. But I'm just going to start with these. So we'll start with the equalizer. And if I know what I want, great. I'm going to start building it. But for people who maybe aren't a little sure or are starting out, I recommend checking out the presets as a place to start. So there's a ton of presets, and for the ones built into Studio One, they're nicely all broken up into little folders, so you can just go right to the drum ones. This was, let's see, some overheads, and they have a few different presets. I'm just going to pick the generic one. So you'll notice that again, boosts a lot of the high ends, cuts out a lot of the low, gets a little bit of everything there. So again, we're going to be shaping that sound. And by cutting out some of these varying other frequencies, we're going to minimize some of that bleed in the different instruments. So that's very handy. So let's see, that's that one. Boop. EQ here on the snare drum. Again, drums, snare, SD. There's a ton of different ones. You can pick which one you like. I recommend listening to different ones, trying them all out. I'm just going to pick the dark one for fun for the sake of this video, but try them out. I also recommend, if once you've got a preset, don't just live with the preset, which is what we're going to do for the sake of this video, because otherwise this will take forever. But, tweak it. Maybe you need to boost up or down a certain frequency band, or, increase or decrease the Q, that kind of thing. Just really, fine tune it to what your actual music content is. So drums, toms. I'm just going to go with the floor tom. Boom. And then bass drum, BD, there's a whole bunch, so let's just go with rock. I'm just picking one. And the last one, the main drum bus. This is going to serve as, again, summing all the things together. And we happen to have some presets for that, actually. If you go to drum bus or drum set, I'm just going to pick drum bus. This does very little. Actually, if you look at it, it's very flat. There's not a lot of boosting or cutting happening. And this just, again, it kind of just adds a little bit of glue to all the drums. Makes them sound like we're in a real space. So let's just listen to it now as is with just the equalizers. Everything is pretty much the same. Let me just put it all at 0. There we are. So let's just play. we'll stop there. We get the idea. It's drums. Already, it's starting to sound a little bit clearer. Again, the point of the EQ is to grab the frequencies that we want in the sound and, get those nice and level so we can hear them and get rid of all the stuff we don't want. So already the drums are fighting each other less because they're overlapping a little bit less in terms of the frequency space. Let's hop over into the compressors now. So again, there are a lot of presets, and again, the compressor is going to take the dynamic range and kind of squash it down. So relatively speaking, the loud sounds get a little softer, the soft sounds get a little louder. When utilized right, the whole thing, it kind of makes it a little punchy. Compressed drums are basically what everyone is used to hearing at this point. So it's not unheard of, but in most cases, you're going to want a little bit of compression on your drums in some way. So let's see, overhead. I'm just going to pick the default for, again, all of these, but fine tune it, see what you like for your mix and everything else that you're doing. Again, this is just a general starting place. There's not even any other music in this track. So SD, snare drum. Let's go with crack. I'm just picking some. You can, again, fine tune it. Maybe I hate it, maybe I don't. Drums. Tom. So Tom was 1, 2, 3. We're gonna go with the smooth, because why not? Bass drum. We'll go with, I don't know, just tight on the bass drum. And last but not least, we like to stick a little compression on the actual drum bus, just to, again, give it a little bit of glue, make everything sound nice and tight and like it belongs together. So we'll stick that there. And actually, while we're on the drum bus, before we play it, actually, no, we'll play it back and then I'll play it just so you can hear every effect individually added. So here it is now with some compression. So in the real world, I would be tweaking the heck out of this and getting it to, really blend with what I like. I don't want to have a 9-hour-long video on this, so we're just going to leave it as is, but you can already tell the balance has already shifted just a little bit. Certain things are punching out a bit more than others. Bumping into stuff here. The thing I was going to add next before I got distracted is just a little bit of reverb. Not a ton, but just a little bit, and I'm gonna stick it onto the boop boop boom, just the room reverb, and actually I'm gonna make this into an effect. So let's see, we'll make it a synth effects, and boop boop boom, drums, drum booth, there we go. So again, this is made to simulate a little bit of reverb, again, as if it was in a drum booth. So there's that, and reverb. So again, I like to do this in parallel because I think it sounds a little bit more realistic. We won't break down that right now. But here's this, and we'll decide how much reverb I want. Just a little bit. We don't need a ton. So we'll leave that there. So I like, again, to have, double reverb on here. Let's try that again now. That'll be a bit more of a difference. We'll leave it right there. Again, just a little bit of reverb helps to glue everything together. So that's the majority of it. There's kind of 2 more things I like to do when getting things ready, and whether or not this would be added into a song or I'm going to export this just as a drum loop, it's kind of helpful to do this. So way over here on the main output, I'm going to add a compressor, and again, I'm just using the default one, and we're going to go to miscellaneous and the main bus output. And that's going to, again, help glue everything together. That I usually do that on the end of things. Anyway, there may be one more step at the very end. We're going to see. But now I've added all the effects. We can adjust our levels. Let's just restart that because I didn't have a loop on. I want more cymbal. I want. So let's go with about right there. Why not? Maybe we'll add a little more reverb. Cool, and maybe we want to just a little bit pan some stuff. Barely, just to help spread it out. Why not? So we have that going right there. There's still a little bit of clipping happening, so there's a few things we could do. The easiest and quickest is just pull down the drums a little bit. As we play through it, let's see if our little thing pops up. Alright, so let's pull that down, probably -3. Alright, we'll listen to it one more time just to see. This is my preferred way, avoid clipping, just pull all the bits down. I'll show you a kind of a quick and dirty way, but I don't always like it for everything. Just making sure we don't get any clips happening towards the very end. Alright, so yeah, it's right there. I'm still okay. So we'll do it like this. We'll also pull this one down just a hair and see. Just double checking. All right, cool. So we've got that. I'll see if I can make this up a bit. I don't want to go down a whole rabbit hole. Yeah, that didn't work. Let's do that and leave it there. So you don't want clipping. It distorts things. It's not great for your speakers. It's not a lot of fun. What you can do there, again, get all the balance, fine tune all the bits. Great. One thing I sometimes do, especially a lot in the classroom when I just need to get something really quick that I know won't clip, is on the post section of the main here is just real quickly add a limiter to it and set it to 0 decibel limiting. This will make sure nothing goes over the threshold. Again, I don't like this for every situation because sometimes you don't want the other effects of a limiter. Any gain, adjustments like that. I personally prefer to, fine tune the sliders, but sometimes you just don't have time. So I'll occasionally stick that on there. So this again is just a very basic starting point. For setting up some of these drums. In the real world, I would have, other stuff happening. And I'd want to listen to everything in the context of that song. I'd probably be adding several other kinds of effects and processing depending on the style I want, whether that be, distortion or delays or doubling or, all kinds of other processing. I could list random effects, but you get the idea. And all of that would make different choices. But generally speaking, I tend to always have this kind of setup regardless of the style I'm doing. The presets would all be very different, and or I would manually set it all if I had a lot of time. But they generally have these effects. And yeah, that's pretty much that. So hopefully this was helpful for my students or anyone else watching this. This is where I'm going to end it for today, and I will see you all the next time that I see you. Bye.